Hey, I'm Patrick with Rowdy Restorations. Today, we're back on the Oliver 77 Grove project. Hopefully we can get her wrapped up in today's episode and have her back ready to go to the shows. I guess the next thing I'm going to investigate, since I don't have the stuff to do the oil change today, I'm going to get underneath here and see about the brakes. There's one linkage laying in the toolbox back here, so I'm going to see if I can figure out anything on the brakes there. Alright, so these brakes are external, I guess you could say. They're right there. This one, obviously, part of the issue is probably that linkage is missing. But the one thing I noticed is that there is a whole lot of movement on this guy right here. I'm tempted to pull these covers off right here, or pull that cover loose and see if I can lean it out to see if the brake stuff is even intact in there. I've never worked on one of these Olivers. My dad and I had an Oliver 88 Standard one time that we had picked up down the road, and I just, you know, one of those ones that I picked up real cheap, got it running again and sold it. That's the only one I've ever worked on. Besides, this is the most I've ever worked on one, I reckon. So I'm going to pull that cover off, see what's behind door number 1 right there, just to kind of get an idea if they're completely shot or not, because that linkage was already off of there, so that's got me worried a little bit. Grease built up on that. I have to give Eddie a hard time next time I see him for painting over this grease. Yeah. Okie dokie. Definitely have some issues here, because as you can see, when I pull the cover out, the brake shoe and everything is coming out. And let's see, how does that work? Let me try to get you guys to where you can see and I can hold the light. Okay, well, no, that's how that works. Okay, so that shoe, or that actually floats there. It just catches behind a notch right here, and it actually floats there. So there might not be anything wrong with that. It's just got so far to have to move. Something. This is an interesting setup. I might need to contact a Oliver expert or something, because, well, even when I pull down tight on it like that, watch, I pull down tight on it and it's still, see, it's still not going over. So there is, something is not right. And I've also got a hunch that all that oil is not supposed to be in there. Okay, got that picked back up. Yep. Yep, something is not quite right here, but like I said, I know nothing about these brakes. I'm wondering if I should slip over here and pull this side off. If I did that, if I'd be able to get a better idea of what's going on. Because this side's got all these extra springs and stuff in the way. I mean, you can tell this stuff's been apart. Obviously, they put that on after they painted it. So just as easy as that, well, I say as easy as that, the brakes come out of there. They've been trying to work, but there must be some way to adjust them. This is splined. All right. So I'm thinking, let's see if that clutch will move out enough to get that off there. Because, oops, it's looking like I might just be able to adjust this stuff maybe. There's no doubt somebody has kind of been in here not too long ago, because, you know, if this was just some old junker, all that stuff would be froze up right there. And that's just a pivot point is all that is. So I can actually see if I can get a hold of that. Pull that out of there. Okay, there we go. There. All right, guys, there we go. What is behind door number, well, I guess this is door number 2. All right. All right, so it looks like it's just got a cam style setup on it. I don't know why it was so hard to pull. It looks like there's plenty of meat left on those shoes or bands or whatever you'd call them. I mean, those rivets look like they were done not that long ago. So what I'm thinking I need to get all this grease cleaned up out of here, and see if there's a way to adjust it a little bit better or not. Maybe put the band up there without the cover on it so I can see what I've got. And it might be a matter of getting this, there we go, getting this splined in a different position. Alright, well, I got these parts cleaned up. Decided not to bore you guys with that. Got all the grease out of there, and upon cleaning and further inspection, I think I have found a source of probably most, if not all, of the problem here. These brake bands are supposed to look like this, be spot welded together, and then for some reason this one has pulled apart, and I'm sure that has caused it to lengthen and therefore be way out of adjustment. So I'm going to pull this mechanism out of it the rest of the way, and then we'll wire wheel all this stuff up and probably throw a little bit of paint on there. See how that works there. So I'm pretty sure we can knock these pins out right here. Get that out of there, and then we'll close this back up, and then I'll run a weld. I'll run a weld down it right here. Probably go in and run one down right here too, just to make sure they don't pop loose again. The shoes are not in perfect condition, but for what we're doing, I would say they will be sufficient. Been a lot of oil has got in there, so I will wire brush them a little bit just to rough them up some to make sure they'll work good, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so I got the brake parts cleaned up for both sides. I cleaned up the brake drums and the whatever you want to call that, the housing where all this stuff sits. I got all that cleaned up. I never seized these pins that go through the shoes there, and I'm going to put some grease on this guy to hopefully keep it from wearing down like it was doing. And then the other thing I probably got to step back and do real quick, I didn't get the other shoe or line or whatever band welded up yet, so I need to do that. But when I do that, I'm going to probably shorten this. I do believe this guy here is original. I know there were 2 tractors when this thing got restored. So I'm leaning towards the fact that this one was grabbed off the other tractor after they painted it because of some other issue with the brake, and they threw it in there because it didn't have any paint on it. And this here, you can tell, has got modified after this piece was painted. So what I'm probably gonna do, these really need to both be rebuilt, both of these rods here. I wasn't gonna fool with that right now. I may cut this one though and shorten it to where it's at least the same length as this one, to where it's the right dimensions, and I guess just hope that I can get the brakes adjusted close enough, because you are supposed to be able to use the splines in these to adjust them close from what I gather. Like I said, I don't have a service book for this thing or even a parts book yet. That's just some info I found on YouTube. Was a guy working on the brakes of a 77 row crop, and they're supposed to adjust it by those, which makes sense, and then you can do your fine adjustment for the pedal free play with these. Alright, so I greased that up. It seems like that should be greased up to me. Don't want that running dry. The only other thing that seems like kind of a bad design to me is the fact that these little housings don't have a drain hole in them. The covers that go on there, they don't have a darn drain hole, which doesn't seem to make sense to me. The only good news with this guy is it's not going to sit out. Well, you know what? There may be a little bit of a spot made in it right here that would allow it to drain. Now that I look at this part laying on the concrete, I think it might drain there until it gets plugged with dirt. So it looks like these guys just go like that, and then the arm will go on right there, and then that linkage will go there. So I'm going to get this cover back on here, and then I'm going to hook all the brake linkages and stuff back up. I unhooked them all in the return springs. I unhooked them all on this side so I could get this out from this side. The driver's side, the left side over there, I had to take the thing out for the lever for the clutch out. Just a little bit too hard to pull. Oh, got it. Shoo. All right. Let's get a cotter pin back in there. There we go. I don't know, I'll tell you what, maybe this was a better design when it was new, but I want you to look at how, now obviously there's some wear in here, but when this lever moves, it's like, it's just, I don't know, a lot of slop. Feel like there was probably a better way to do this. Well, there was. John Deere's brakes were better. So, anyways, I think I'm going to button up the other side just like I did here. And yeah, I'm still thinking about maybe just making these brake rods new real quick, and we'll see how that goes. On the other hand, I kind of want to just get it back together. Alright, well, I welded up this band brake here where it was broke. Greased up that. Never seized those pins. We'll slide this dude back in there. I find this to be a very interesting setup. I'm not a huge fan. But that rides in there like that. I guess it works. And we'll get the cover back on and all right. So there's that. See, I just don't like the way that but that appears to be doing its job. We'll get this clutch put back on. I like to put never sees on stuff like this because it is a lubricant as well. Seems like it doesn't go away and get as hard or get hard as fast as just regular grease. Oops, better make sure it's up. Okay, that's all the way in there now. So I am waiting just a moment on putting the brakes the rest of the way together. I am going to attempt to remake those brake rods because you can't adjust them anymore, and I figured if I can get some round bar, it's just 3/8 round bar, I can go ahead and make those up real quick. But of course I couldn't find any around here yesterday, so I've got another parts store is going to try to bring me some today. Figured I'd go ahead and do those while we're at it. Try to get it working to the best of our ability. And then what I'll do is getting this back together to where if we need to pull it out of the shop, I can without a big deal. I do believe this washer was on here, and then this had this little quick clip deal. There we go. Alright, clutch is hooked back up, brakes are back in, and it is probably more drivable than it was before. So I think we'll go ahead and do the oil change. I have the oil filter and stuff here now. Alright, let's get the oil drained out of this thing. You know, do oil changes multiple times a week and still forget to bring a rag with me. Let's see if anything interesting comes out. Well, just straight oil. I wouldn't have been surprised if there would have been a little bit of water down there at the bottom, but I called Napa up and told them what model tractor I had here, and they actually were able to cross the filter over and have it to me the same day if it's right. So let's see. It's looking right so far. Yep. It's a interesting design, but would you look at that? It appears to all be correct. We'll put some oil on here. Make sure there's plenty of oil on there. Huh. Look at that. I have such a problem getting parts anymore that it is always a surprise when something actually fits. Looks like it's in the working range. Put a little more in it. This is actually my good used oil as it's labeled. So yes, it's used, but I really don't think it's going to hurt anything in this old tractor. It's lightly used is why we save it. We've got some trucks that get serviced annually that get very, very low miles put on them, so. Look at all that yumminess down inside there. Ugh. Alright, got some fresh oil in there. Actually used the correct oil in that. Put 10W30 in it. I went ahead and grabbed some new spark plugs too, just to put some fresh plugs in it. You know, any little bit of help it can get, I reckon. I don't know what plugs it's supposed to have. It had 388s in it, Autolite 388, so I just went ahead and got the same thing. Again, those ones, well, the one out of number 1 doesn't look too bad, so. Apparently the parent company that owns Autolite and Trico wipers and a bunch of other stuff has filed bankruptcy. They said it was Chapter 11, so hopefully they'll restructure and keep these brands and keep them in the US. Well, I say that, I didn't even look where these are made. Oh. Psh. I might have to find a different brand of spark plugs anyways. Made in China. Junk. Well, there we go. New plugs. Give the old gal every chance she's got to run better. We finally got that thing going today. That's been here way too long. I'm gonna strip these decals off. I got new ones on order. They should be here later in the week. Actually, see if we can get this guy loose. These darn magnets, I don't know what it is with them, but they melt themselves into the paint somehow. So, yeah, tip of the day, take them off when you take these magnets off when you park the tractor. If you've ever had to take decals off before, you probably know about these, but if you haven't, this is from 3M. It's called a magic eraser. It is the handiest thing since sliced bread for taking decals off. It would help if I had a better drill. There you go, just like that. Ah, darn it. Well, it looks like the magic eraser is going to be the trick to getting the magnet off too. All right, well, I think that looks pretty good. So we got to make the brake linkages yet. So we're going to pull it outside, get it out of the way for today, wash it up, and hopefully have that finished up here. All right, so I'm finally back over here on the brake project for the Oliver. Dad found these linkages off of something in his stuff, and so I may just go ahead and try to, like this one's already broke loose, I may just try to modify this slightly. It's about the about what we need. So really I need to just straighten this out a little bit right here and just get a good 90-degree bend across the top. Drill a hole in it, and the threads are already right and everything. So I'm gonna just clean these up a little bit, see if I can do that. The other day, oh sorry guys. The other day we tried to thread a piece of rod, and I don't know what happened. I kind of started it, and then the old man was here, and he went to thread it, and I don't know if you can see, but for some reason it started tracking down the rod crooked. And after that happened, he went up and found these other things and's like, here, make it out of that. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Just use some old junk, make them, and then I'll save these guys in the loft for future use or whatever. And not that I'll need to, because I think these are gonna work good. And then these seem to be good. These holes don't have any wear, so. I think I'll let that cool down so I don't twist it into the wrong spot when I go to make the 90-degree bend, and I'll work on cutting this guy apart. Gotta admit, it's pretty cool how you can bend metal like that. All right, there we go. Cleaned up rod that's currently straight. And we are going to move this hot one over and get a length right here. I'm gonna bend it. I guess what I need to do, yeah, that'll work. Because I'm going to lose material. So I think I'm going to actually mark this a little bit different. I was thinking I would mark it that way and then cut it off, but I think I need to mark it like this, guys. I don't know. That would make sense. Right there. And I'm going to clamp it here. Kind of heating it up below the jaws a little bit too, to make sure it'll bend tight. Of course, I didn't grab a hammer. A lot of times I'll hammer them over tight when I do this. Might need to go get said hammer. Whoa. Let's see how that looks. That looks like it will do the job very well. Sweet. All right. That'll work. So the next step will be to drill the hole in it right there. Lay that there. Take this other one and get it cleaned up. Rod number 2. All right, so I marked these right there, and I picked me out a drill bit that looks appropriate. Let's clamp this in the vise and see if we can't drill a hole through there for the cotter pin to go through. These little drill bits, it's kind of tricky to keep them from walking off the edge of the round bar, but I got it. All right, there's one hole. All right, 2 holes drilled successfully. All right, well, we're going to put these back on. So I drove a chisel into it just to make it slip on here, hopefully a little bit easier. Before we get too excited, I'm going to put some Never Sees on there, because I want to be able to get these back off later. But have any of y'all ever noticed with Never Sees how one little drop of Never Sees, one little brush, is enough to cover a 53-foot trailer? Man, if you're not careful, that stuff will end up everywhere. All right, so we're gonna put that linkage in there just to kind of get a baseline. All right. So I put that in there just to kind of establish close, and then we can, like I think right there is going to be good. Then we can adjust the pedal free play with the clevis. So I'll take that off. Tap that on. right, there we go. Hey, Dad, can you get me two 9/16 wrenches? Two 9/16 wrenches.
Want a ratchet or?
Just one regular and one ratchet wrench should be fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. How much you got to do on that?
All right, let's see how this fits here. Sorry if it gets shadowed, guys. A little bit hard to get enough light underneath here. Good. I am going to try that. Going to give that a whirl. I'll go up and mash the brake pedal down and see what happens. All right, well, the brake pedal goes all the way to the floor. I may have to adjust that. I may have to take that back off. Need to turn that a little bit more.
All the lights went off.
We're going to have to adjust that down again. I feel like it would be dragging right there. I may, let me try that. All right, so I've got a pedal now with it right where it's at, but I feel like it might be dragging a little bit. So I'm gonna run this in. I'm just gonna run that in a little bit, and then we'll give that a try. Tighten that back up. Maybe. All right. All right, well, I've got pedal up top now. So it'll be to get on the tractor and go drive it around, I guess, and see how that does, but it looks like we're on the right track. I'll go ahead and throw the other side together. I don't think I'll bore you all with that. And then we got to get some decals on it and be about ready to go. All right, well, it's time to get the decals put on this thing. I found a company on the internet, Oliver Decals. They are out of North Carolina, so I thought that was pretty cool, up close to me. I will give them very good credit. They do a very good job packaging the decals, to the point to where I was struggling to find all of the decals when I opened it up. I cut it open and found these and was like, oh man, yeah, look at that. And here's an empty spot where the other ones go. Well, then I finally sent them a message and then finally realized, hey, there's the Orchard 77 decals we need. So get these things measured out, laid out. I guess they go about right there. Look at that. Boom, done. Yep. Wish it was that easy. But anyways, yeah, go about right there. So we will measure everything out. That it is actually convenient that it's hanging there right now. We'll measure all this out. We'll put some tape here, and I'll bring you guys in a little closer and show you how we do that. Try to get you in closer so you can see what's going on there. A lot of people like to spray like water or soapy water or stuff like that down before they do the decals. I never do that. I've done a lot of them and have pretty good success rate. You know, we're gonna pick an even number here. I don't know anything about Oliver's as to know if there's an exact measurement that these things are supposed to be set at. I think for me, it's just to probably do it where it looks good. And before we do an actual full-blown restoration on this tractor, which I have no idea what century that'll take place in, we'll do some research and we'll get all that kind of stuff hammered out so we can make sure it's right before we do that. All right, so then I come in, make a hinge the decal up, pull the backing off. A lot of times this backing, you know, you can tell that these, well, if you've done enough of this, I can tell that these decals are very fresh and have not been sitting around for some ridiculous amount of time somewhere by the way this peels off. But you want to, if you're having a problem with the decal sticking to the white paper here, you just pull it at a sharper angle when you're pulling it off, and the letters will stay stuck to the transfer tape. So right off the bat right there, I can tell that these are of a pretty good quality. So then I come in here and take the little, this is actually a true spreader for putting decals on. See, it's got a little measuring thing on this side. You could use a body filler spreader. You can use a credit card. And if you work it down like this while holding the bottom out, it will push all the air out. You won't have any air bubbles, and you don't have to deal with waiting for it to dry and waiting for all the damp water to come out. Maybe because I'm not patient enough, but I've actually had a problem before to where I have tried to spray the surface with soapy water or something like that, and then I go to peel the transfer stuff off, and then the decals start lifting or they start slipping around or what have you. And then also same deal, just like pulling that transfer paper. When you pull this, if you pull it off, that one's ripping, but if you pull it off at a sharp angle, it will not disturb your decals. Typically that doesn't happen right there, but it's not a big deal. And just like that, all done. Try to bring you guys in here for a little bit closer shot. And like I said, I apologize for the lighting a little bit around the shop here. I've got to work on that. So there you go. No air pockets. Nice clean decals. You see a little bit of stuff. You probably can't see it, but there's a little bit of imperfections. That's actually in the paint. That's not air bubbles. So those ones are actually pretty simple to do. They're not real big. But it's the same concept for some of the big ones. Every once in a while too, I have some that will have to, if this was a really, really long decal or went around a curve or something like that, you could take and cut the, not the decal itself, but well, you can cut in half in between lettering if this line wasn't here to make it easier to position it or something like that. Get the other side knocked out here real quick. Tell you what, it is very convenient, I guess, apparently, doing decals in late October. Shoot, I guess it's the last day of October. Man, I don't know where the time goes. But it is convenient doing them in late October in Western North Carolina because static electricity or whatever is making it just stick right to the panel without having to put tape on it until I'm ready to put tape on it. Doesn't get any easier than that, guys. Alright, there we go. Now we'll hinge it up. I use that bolt as a reference right there. I put the other ones on and I just came back 7 inches to the beginning of the decal to get it. It looks like that's pretty much where Dale and Eddie or whoever put the decals on the tractor back when the good old boys did it. That's pretty much where they had them at. I kind of like the ones that say Oliver Orchard 77, but I guess from what I've gathered is maybe this is what 1950 and prior looks like. And then maybe 51 and later of the Fleet Line series said Oliver 77 Orchard. I guess somebody could chime in and let everybody know exactly how that went down, because like I've said, I'm not an Oliver expert. I'd like to get a 2255 to work on someday though, but I guess a lot of us would. All right, there we go. Those look good. So I do have the rest of the decal pack. I'm going to replace the 77 that's here, and then I've got to take and look through the other package of decals as far as what's left. And the one thing I will have to figure out is where some of them go, because I don't know where all these things go. I might leave some of them off and get some advice as to where they go before I put them on, because see, you got some different ones in there too. All right, well, I think that'll about wrap it up on the repairs to the Oliver 77 Grove tractor here. I got a couple little things I want to do. I want to get the front lights swapped out. I just didn't really have time to paint those up and bring that to you guys, but hopefully we'll get that done. Also, the starter button has been acting up on me, so I'm going to have to try to get that fixed too. Hopefully, if everything goes as planned, we're going to bring this tractor to the Perry, Georgia Tractor Show, November 13th through the 15th. And I've also got plans to bring the 2020 and the disc that we had at Rantoul to that show as well. But as always, like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Doesn't cost you a dime. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode on fixing up the Oliver's brakes and putting the decals on it. We'll see you all around. Thanks for watching.